research about 8 years ago in the mining industry, and I basically asked middle and senior managers of platinum mining companies focused in the area around Rustenburg in Northwest Province, what are your social responsibilities? I mean, I asked a whole lot more, but it comes down to that basically. What do you consider to be your contribution to sustainable Africa or future prosperity? And they generally pointed me to these kinds of initiatives. This is a school that's supported by Lonmin, and these kids were a marvelous photo opportunity. This is a clinic, a mobile clinic, supported by Anglo Platinum. And I think also here, very valuable, important contribution to this community. Many of the informal settlements not having any health care provided to them. And this is a small enterprise, a group of ladies that was being supported to provide, to make honey. That was their primary income source, but they also had, as you can see here, cabbages and lettuce and spinach that they sold. Quite a lot of it went, by the way, to Impala. So Impala was supporting this particular initiative. So the big three companies that are operating in platinum, you'll know all of them, and the other companies in that area as well, they would say this is our contribution to society. So one of the things that I do in our MBA class or other classes at the GSB or elsewhere is one way to go into quite a useful discussion is what's wrong with this? What's wrong with this answer to the question, what is your contribution to society? And so, because I've only got a couple of minutes, I'll just give you the main, what I think is one of the main problems, which is that these are very important contributions to this area. Just by the way, the economic value of a lot of these initiatives, of these so-called CSI initiatives, are roughly in the order of magnitude of the capital budget of the municipality. So this isn't negligible financially by any means. Quite significant, in fact. However, it's basically ignoring the interface between the core business and society. It's giving some part of your profit, because of BEE codes and so on, it's being formalized and standardized now increasingly to 1% post-tax. It's not actually dealing with the social implications of how these companies make their money in the first place. Social and environmental implications. As John said yesterday, social and environmental issues, especially on mining, very closely interrelated. And so you probe a little bit further, and in fact, people in the companies themselves recognize this. So this is a CSI manager at the time of working for Anglo Platinum in those days. He pointed out to this. He says companies thought that they needed to pay what some people refer to as blood money, but it never needed to be part of the business process. Bear in mind in this context that mining companies were identified in particular by the TRC as being contributors to the grand plan of apartheid in terms of migrant labor, single-sex hostels and the like. So there's a lot to be considered in terms of core business practice and social damage to the South African fabric. And what are companies doing about those direct damages, and what can they actually do to turn it around from a harmful relationship to a beneficial relationship. And in many ways, the nexus of that interrelationship are these informal settlements around the mines. These informal settlements grow for a range of reasons. A lot of them have to do with the role of municipality, changing laws, land use management, etc. But mining companies are very much linked to this growth, particularly with regard to the labor procurement, migrant labor, the single-sex hostels, which are slowly changing. I mean, bear in mind this is 8 years ago now, so things have changed since then. In those days, those changes were still very slow. And so my criticism of this response by companies was that they were thinking about corporate social investment and corporate social responsibility in terms of giving away money, small part of their money, to social causes, but they weren't considering how they were making that money in the first place and what the social implications of those activities were. So just to get a sense of also this issue of, one way that this has been framed is the concept of materiality. Okay, so the GRI, the Global Reporting Initiative, its first principle says, in your sustainability report or your annual report or whatever, you've got to tell us as the audience what's actually important. What's the actual important interface between you as a company and your business operation and the environment, society, governance, and economy. And what was interesting was that back in 2000, only in 2007 or so, was the first mention, clear mention made of these interrelationships between housing, migrant labor, and other issues, and mining companies, in mining companies' sustainability reports. So in 2007, you'll have a look at Anglo Platinum, for instance. They have a page that talks about what are we doing about informal settlements around our operations. But it took them basically 15 years to get to that point. That's too long in my view. Now, 2009, if you look at Anglo Platinum's report, I like to pick on Anglo Platinum because, like Sekunjalo, they got a whole lot of awards. So if you look at the companies that get recognized for these things, and if you see what some of the challenges are that they still are facing, then you can perhaps extrapolate and see, well, what about the rest of the companies we are working with? And so this is just a small extract from their current report, which I think is quite interesting and quite well put together. And so where they talk about having a proactive strategy in partnership with the Department of Housing, which I think is good news. But, you can see here a nice